So what classifies a long time?
10+ years, I guess.
Okay.
15, 35.
Okay. I don't disagree with that. I also think that, whoever it is, needs to have a little bit of a background in leadership committee operations. So that they can understand how committees are run.
Do you fit that bill?
I do not. I fit the bill for time. I've been in the community for over 15 years. But I've never been a member of a committee like this before.
Well, sure.
I've never been a member of a committee like this, and I've been here 8 years, so.
Only got 6.
Right there with this.
I've been in a committee like this, but I've only been here a little over 4.
We're one against the other. Everybody's looking at you.
I'd say Sage is a pretty good candidate. But I think that. You know, very well, I don't know if he's worked a while out or. I know he's a busy boy. I think he'd make a real good one.
Is he gonna be remote though? Sage? That might be the only challenge with Sage.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
Or
just
kicked it.
occasionally. Is he on for?
He's on,
Okay.
and I've clicked to promote him to a panelist. But he has evidently not accepted it on his end. Cause I've done it 4 times now. I've been here lots of years, it just. I've been around me, so I don't have a lot of experience.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, if you want, like, we're able to kind of help. You know, give you like material and stuff to kind of show, you know, how to run a meeting and whatnot and, yeah, I guess
Well, we're supposed to be 9 this morning or this.
so Christine wasn't able to make it tonight, and then Steve said he'd be here, and then Sage is on via Zoom. So. So yeah, I mean, I guess it, yeah.
Well, how much does it pay? I've been here 27 years.
Well, it's just for the appointed committee members is who to be. Who to be assigned for it.
So I'll make a proposal then. I propose you be the chair and I'll be your vice chair. Since you've done meetings like this before.
Yeah.
And I'm the longevity as far as what's on the committee that's here tonight. What do we think of that?
I'm good with it.
I can second that.
You okay with that?
I'm fine with that. Everybody else is.
It sounds like we have a motion to appoint Jeff Fracom as chair and Keith Grover as vice chair. So who would like to make a motion and then who would want to second that motion?
I motion to have them move forward.
I'll second it. Alrighty.
Congratulations, you're in the hot seat.
Pardon me for a moment.
Mhm.
A motion was made, there was a second, you need to vote.
Okay.
Right. So then you'll just go one at a time and vote whether yes or no to approve.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes,
Oh, yeah, Sage too. So then that would mean, so then once everyone's voted and everyone said is, or if the majority is in favor, then you would say the motion has carried. So,
Motion carried.
alright.
Get a gavel or anything like that? I hope not.
No, but we could put the chairman thing.
Really?
There you go.
Seems a little excessive at this point.
All right, so next we'll be going, so did everyone see that email that I sent last Friday?
Well, Chris Warner says they can't hear her, as she's on the Zoom.
Do I need to unmute on mine? I shouldn't have to, right? It should be coming through the mic
You have to unmute.
on my computer.
You should be coming through the microphone. You're
Yeah.
not.
Okay, I think I've got it.
There we go.
I support in nominating Jeff.
Oh,
The vote is already concluded, Christine. They've moved on.
Well, thanks.
But let the record show. That's awesome. Thank you.
are we good then? Can everyone hear me? On Zoom?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so now we're gonna move on. Oh, sorry. So I just wanted to see, ask if everyone had received that email last week on Friday for that greater Rigby plan that I'd sent out. So that was just kind of a big overview. That's essentially the plan on what we're working towards. Like that's our end goal. And then kind of what we're working through the agenda is just going through section by section. And so what we worked on last time was working on those guiding principles. So if you'll go to section 3 of that packet, kind of what we were doing with that whole Mentimeter survey, that was creating those 7 guiding principles. And where we place those guiding principles is within this greater Rigby plan to just kind of give, you know, the broader review for each section. And then following after that section 3 is then where you go further down and to kind of more specifically each of those guiding principles, if that makes sense. And so
Just to answer your question, I don't know if you guys have the same problem. I did get it. I thought it was an issue to review for the weekend, but I didn't get it until about 9 o'clock this morning.
that's when I got it, was this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. My body was one.
Delayed.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. So somebody thought that then.
I'm glad to hear it, so maybe my email.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's, well darn. Well, at least now you have a copy now, so you can take it home and you can keep working on it, you know, you can like have any ideas that you want to add or have any specific goals or policies, you know, kind of as we're going through this. You're more than welcome, you know, to write it down or, you know, email us whenever. And then we can just kind of, you know, keep like an active working document because we're still, you know, working through it ourselves and trying to, you know, fill in but so if you have any feedback on it, just let us know. So kind of the intent for item number 2's agenda is just going through each guiding principle. So our plan was just to read through it entirely, and then if you had any feedback for that specific guiding principle, you know, we'll kind of talk about it. If we want to change up some of the wording, whatnot, we can do that. And that's what I have up on the screen as well as what we'll be working on each time. So the first guiding principle, that was the preserve Greater Rigby's unique character. And so this was taken from the Mentimeter surveys that were done last time, and we just kind of combine them all together and generally summarize them. So this one is to preserve its unique roots over the next 20 years. Greater Rigby must balance growth with the small town atmosphere, agricultural heritage, and scenic beauty that define the community. Residents emphasize the importance of organized development near existing town borders while protecting farmland, open green space, and water resources. Community traditions, multi-generational families, local landmarks, and Rigby's identity as the birthplace of television were also highlighted as important aspects to preserve as infrastructure and public services continue to grow alongside the community.
I think it's a good principle. I guess my only comment to there would be the first sentence, preserve scenic routes over the next 20 years. I don't think you can say it the next 20 years. Just preserve scenic routes. I don't know, we want to throw it away in 20 years, right?
No, we want to maintain it forever.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I have a question. How can I get a copy of that? I didn't see it on
Got an extra?
the external side. The agenda's there, but nothing else is there.
Do you have anything that, is Milton still on there to be able to answer that? I'm not too sure.
Or because it's a working document, is it something that we're not releasing yet? I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're advertising it. We do have it on the live stream to be able to read it as we're going through it.
Sure.
I'm not, I don't know the answer, being able to provide a copy, since it isn't something that's, you know, been approved or anything. It is just in the draft format of it. There's nothing approved with this one, because we are actively working on it.
Done.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jenna,
What's the purpose of notifying
Wait,
everybody?
hold on, sorry, Milton's trying to talk.
so we're happy to give them a copy of it. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. We just need to understand that this meeting is a public work meeting. It's not a public hearing. So we typically aren't going to be taking comments from the public at this time. We're letting the committee work through this document is really what she's trying to say. Is that the committee hasn't had a chance to work through this document and they're not prepared to take public comment on it. So we're happy to share copies with it and put it out there so people see what's going on. And if you want to submit written comments, that's fine. But this meeting is not necessarily for public comment. It's for this committee to do its work.
So why can the public come? Yes, they don't have any input.
Well, I think the public is come and see how we work and see what we're working on. As opposed to like a public hearing is exactly that. A public hearing is where you come and you give your input and stuff. We want you to see what we're working on and how we're going through the process. But those are the two distinct differences, right? In a public hearing, issues come up and you solicit public comment for us to, or for people to make decisions. Whereas in a work session, you come and you see what we're working on and how we're working on and things like that. Those are the two, as I understand it, the distinct differences between a public hearing and a work session. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It does and it doesn't. I mean, if I have no input, why am I here?
To educate
Because
yourself,
you're interested.
to be aware of how.
But I can't say, when you guys are up there talking about what you're gonna do,
Sure.
I have to be quiet.
Thank
Well,
you.
then just send me a copy when you get done and I'll look at it.
Okay.
Because it's pointless to have the public here if we have no input.
If you'd like to take notes and provide notes at the end, you're welcome to do that. I have no issues with that. And I don't think anybody else here will have issues if people from the public want to be here and participate, you can take notes, leave the notes with us and we'll review it. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just send me a copy when you get it, Melton. Thanks. You guys need to figure this out a little bit better because it's not gonna work.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I mean, we're all volunteers that are volunteering our own time to do this. None of us are paid. We're here because we care about the Rigby area, right?
That's what I thought.
And if there's a process to be held with it, then let's hold the process. If people that didn't volunteer to be on the committee want to give their 2 cents, I say they're welcome to if they provide notes.
Well, we gotta get our work done.
Correct.
There's one other item, Mr. Vice Chairman. And that is, you're just the committee that's working on this plan. Before the plan is adopted, then it would go before the county commissioners.
Of course.
Then there would be a public hearing. The public will have an opportunity to speak at that time.
Sure.
It's just the proper time in reference to things. Unfortunately, this gentleman didn't understand the procedures.
Well, I think we're
Right
just
now, this is a work
learning.
session. This is not a public hearing. And that's what Milton was referring to.
Ultimately, this is a draft and it's subject to dramatic, profound revision. Drafts are going to change, you know? Yeah.
This is the first draft.
Yeah.
Right.
So rough draft.
Exactly.
It's really, if I remember, put something together to rough draft or send it to the public.
Does anybody know how to get a hold of him and explain all this?
He can come into the office
Okay.
when, and yeah, and that's where staff is, you know, able to help kind of talk with public when they have questions on this stuff.
That's correct. I know who he is and I'm happy to get a hold of him. And you guys are
Thank
correct. This is, you know, we're working on a draft. We'll take it out to the public. You know, hopefully we'll have something ready by the time the fair comes around, and maybe we'll put up a booth at the fair. We'll do some things to get some public input on this as we progress down the road. We just need to get a draft of stuff together so we have something to talk about with the public, know where we're going. So it's good.
Moving on. So anything else with the guiding principle 1 that you guys wanted to change or add to that one?
I think we just lined through over the next 20 years and kept the rest, right?
Right.
And that's the only change we made.
Yeah, yeah, and I put that up there.
Principle 2, greater Rigby should be infrastructure focused instead of close to the city. What does that mean?
When they did the map, I think they took where the city of Rigby is.
Mhm.
And then was it a mile on each side? They made the greater Rigby area.
There's
So
the,
that's what it's referring to as the greater Rigby area, which is just that extension outside of the city itself. So the city's going to expand.
Absolutely. And there's infrastructure focused. In what way? What type of infrastructure focus are we talking about?
Great question. I missed the last meeting where this was all developed.
Sure, no problem.
yeah, so I'm not,
Yeah, we talk about roads and bridges and, you know, stoplights and things like that.
Power and septic and water and all of that.
I think infrastructure would be all that,
Yeah.
schools, emergency services, you could wrap all that in.
Okay. So. I like his point of. The infrastructure focused, so are we focusing specifically on the infrastructure? Being close to the city? And then from there, what?
Well, you know, it says the next sentence, it should also grow alongside the Highway 20 corridor with commercial industrial development prioritized designated areas of residential growth plan by density. That screams for infrastructure as well.
It does.
I mean, the way I'm reading it is we're gonna go through all this growth in various areas designating some commercial, some industrial, some residential. And we need to keep an eye on the infrastructure and make sure it can accommodate all of it. Okay, that's basically what I'm manage growth sequentially and strategically.
I like the strategic.
I agree.
I think that the greater Rigby should be strategically focused. on infrastructure. What do you think of that? Because we need to be step by step and evaluate how things go. And take a look at the long-term ramifications of whatever decision is made.
Great.
Like that.
We're done saying it's too close to the city. And that is what Greater Rigby is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we can get rid of that. Just, we should be strategically focused on infrastructure. Period. Oftentimes with regulations and information like this, less is more.
This point, we define the designated areas for commercial and industrial development.
I don't know. Let's do that.
If we go back to the zone map. And. This blue, that's indicating where the greater Rigby area is. And then just to kind of get an idea of where that's at. And then when I take that away, if you look at looking along Highway 20, and there's those spots of red for light industrial, light blue for commercial 1, dark blue for commercial 2. That's what's existing commercial and industrial zone land. So there's a lot more commercial industrial heavy on the south side of the city of Rigby. And then as you go on the north side, there's some pockets, like there's a commercial 2 here, there's some C1 zoning here, and then some more commercial and light industrial towards that top end of the greater Rigby area.
And the light blue is the light industrial?
Light blue is commercial 1. Commercial, yeah. The light red, pinkish kind of color, that's the industrial one.
So the last meeting I was in was a month ago. And we had made a discussion about wanting to limit the amount of high density housing. And here we talk about high density housing near the city resources, which makes sense to have that there. What has come of that discussion of the high density and how big of a concern are we gonna be with that? Well, since it's in our state here, what are we looking at as far as high density? And obviously it's gonna be focused around the city. So that's my question with it.
I think if I understood correctly, and Paul, feel free to correct me if you got a different interpretation of it last week, but the greater Rigby area, that 30 square mile area, is the area that's going to see more of the high density rather than it's spreading out outside of that region to the outlying areas where there's going to be an emphasis on the protection of rural properties, farmland, that sort of thing. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of high density housing. But it's gonna go somewhere.
Right.
Rather than, you know, shove it down the road and out the middle of the fields down there, which is only encourage more growth like that flowing outwards, let's refocus it with the city where the city needs to be.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, the county just approved higher density out in the county with 20 units per acre or something like that. That's higher than the city's 20, we're 18 per acre. Is that just allowed in the downtown area or is that allowed anywhere in the county? I don't know how that ordinance went through the last week when you guys passed that. So the county's has a higher density than the city, but is it just within the impact area or?
So that higher density that was put into specific zones that where it's allowed. So the code just gave more specific standards for multifamily housing. And then the land use table further designated where that could go. And so we allow it in the suburban neighborhood zone, which currently we only have one or a few properties that are in the suburban neighborhood zones. They just had that approved. And then where it's also allowed to be in that C1 zone is where we've designated to allow multifamily housing. But it's not.
That in the greater Rigby area that multifamily was just approved.
Yeah, it was just right here is these 4 lots had just been approved for a zone change and they're like mile and a half away from city limits. So they're well within the even the current area of impact. But a lot of those things multifamily is that it does require city sewer and water hookups. So it's not like it could just be placed anywhere. It would have to show that it has to have that central sewer water capability.
And then you have to get approval from council, not just,
Yeah.
city approval.
I think Milton had something to say.
So yeah, let's not get too hung up on this. That if you read the code, it does say 20 units per acre, but it says net density. And what that means is that you cannot count the parking lots and the roads inside the development to add density number of apartments. And so that's one of the things to pay attention to. The other one is that it requires utilities. And we know that there are planned utilities extending from the city, right? And we know that folks are trying to extend utilities from the city. And so we just need to know in the future, in the next couple months, where those lines may possibly go. And when we sit down and draw the map, we'll talk about where would we want suburban neighborhood type zoning to go or multifamily type zoning to go. We'll talk about that down the road. I don't want to get too hung up on it. It's a decision that the board has made, and it's not for any specific project or anything specific going on right now. It's just we're trying to be prepared for some of the growth that is coming, and the fact that we know that the city utilities are extending outside city limits. And so we're just trying to be prepared for that. Where it actually goes, that's why we're having these meetings, is to try and determine exactly where it goes. Because yes, there are concerns, and the board was concerned when they did this zone change recently. They were concerned about, are we going to be allowing multifamily next to single family dwellings? And they didn't want to do that. So I think we're all on the same page. We don't want to get too lost here. Okay. Did I lose you?
Now you're good.
So in a nutshell, we know that higher density growth is going to become a thing, the greater Rigby area, and just establish one of those places where it's going to be. Okay, that's what I got.
Yep. Okay. So with that, higher density housing near city resources, so we need to make sure that when it gets approved with the vicinity of city water, city sewer. Is what that is meaning. Is that right?
Well, what do we define vicinity to? Because, we see high density happening all over the place within Rigby, even up against single family homes.
So that's where that's kind of where you would then get more into specific code, whereas right now, you're just kind of creating like. You know, this is where we'd like it to be near. What's near, that's then where you have that more specific code for how close it would need to be.
And that's something that I would want to watch carefully, because I understand you go down the road several miles, there's nothing out there.
Right.
This is a great spot to put a bunch of high density housing. What I wouldn't want to see is have all that great spot go right next to a residential community where they're all single family homes,
Which is what's coming now.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Well, maybe we should define near.
Part of the advantage of, you know, high density housing for a lot of folks is that they're near city resources, right? They're walkable area. And they don't have to get out and drive everywhere. And that's what makes it attractive for young families, that they can walk to the grocery store, they can walk to restaurants and things like that. And it takes vehicles off the road, and it makes it less traffic. Build high density housing out among single family homes. And you're gonna have not only more condensed traffic around single family homes, but you're also gonna take off the single family homeowners that have to live right on the apartments and that we don't keep up. So it's a losing proposition all the way around. So we have to take a look at what is near to the city and how we define
I'm not quite sure you can put a mileage on that.
Right.
Because that mileage is gonna change throughout, as the city.
as city
As
centers.
the city
More
develops.
property,
Yeah.
Right,
gonna move that line.
As city centers.
exactly,
So I think we need to look at what's the proper verbiage to put in there.
yeah,
I think perhaps it's already there to kind of read between the lines, where there was commercial industrial development prioritized in designated areas, and she shows what the designated areas are. Residential growth plan by density, doesn't say high density, doesn't say low density, just says by density. So in a way, it's kind of already there, if you're following me, where we're saying,
Right.
by density, okay, this density is high density, and this density is low density, because it's a simple thing.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Gotcha, that's fine,
But
that's why we're here.
if that puts us in the same position that we're in now, apartments built right next to single family homes, because they're right there. And that gives developers who say, I get it zoned R1, I'm requesting a zone change to R3, and they rubber stamp it.
No, I hear what you're saying, I mean, I would look. Try to play both sides of the same
Right.
coin. In one respect, I would look at this and say, this is great, residential growth plan by density, you know, high density areas, low density areas, mixed use areas, he's over here, he's over here, he's over here. Okay. How do we affect that ultimately? Because you're absolutely right. The other side of that is they're gonna say, well, the line is the street. Okay, on this side of the street, we've got, you know, 2-story, 500 unit apartment complexes here. And across the street, you got single family homes. And it's like, well, yeah, that's not really what I envision as the intent. You know, at least from my standpoint, what I would like to see, I'd like to see a little bit more diversity. There's some green space in between. You've got a half-mile separation or something like that. And that's where I think green space is and that sort of stuff comes into play.
Or in this case, 1 acre, single family home lots, a field, 1/4 acre family home lots. And building a few fields on R1. Now it's R2, R3, and a few single family homes. That's what they just approved. And that's what I'm saying is, that's why I think it has to be defined, because if it's not, that's gonna happen again.
So I guess is it more you're kind of wanting to see some kind of language where it's affecting or it's relating to the existing uses. So not so much planning for, what's gonna come in, but acknowledging what is already there.
I think
So would that love to have
I think
language to
so.
acknowledge that?
Yeah,
I mean, one respect, what's done is done.
Mhm.
yeah, we can't go back.
You can't,
Can't go
you
back
can't
and
go
change
back,
that.
so you can't tear it down
But
and do
what
something.
you're concerned about is putting higher density next to existing lower
Right.
density.
Yeah.
So would it help to put language in this guiding principle, to acknowledge existing, with that higher density?
I think we have to look at, say, okay, what's happened in the past that maybe we look at and say, we wish it hadn't been done, so how do we protect ourselves going forward? So that what we view as maybe not the best thing, how do we keep that from happening down in the future? And how do we learn from it? And that it continues to make the greater Rigby area a great place to be.
Well, maybe I guess while we're thinking on that, we want to move on to the guiding principle 3 and then we can come back to that one.
I do think on 3 though, one of the things that we can do is, and I don't know the 100% the right way to do it, but when developing an area, we can require a certain amount of green space maintained on developments.
Is that already in code? Or? Off the top of my head, I don't think we have any specific green space other than for like planned unit developments.
I might be thinking of that with the city of Rigby.
Yeah, I
Required
don't know.
green space.
The city of Rigby and a PUD is 30% green space.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yes. If we don't have that, we probably should have some.
That way we maintain the same. I think that it should be identical
Yeah,
at a minimum.
whether it's a PUD or not.
Right.
Right.
Because that way, as the city grows, it maintains what the city code is. And you maintain that green space for everybody, because the pirate park is being overrun as it is right now. Which is great, there's lots of people there, but yeah, we need that extra green space for those kids.
I would like that.
Our state green space or zero landscaping nowadays. Only one or the other.
In the middle there, it says, comma, and maintaining open and green space, I would say, and establishing and maintaining open and green space.
I'm good with that.
But
Did you get him to calm down?
You shook my hand before he left.
There you go.
The big gadget probably should be gauge.
yeah,
I thought I could tell what this was. I'm assuming it should be gauge.
that sounds right.
That section's tough. Because you're kind of leaning on, I mean, we all would like to see this agricultural land stay intact, but really that's ultimately up to the landowner and, it's their choice to sell and someone's choice to buy. I think it's a little tricky.
So you're saying that it's up to, that it's hard to manage that, keeping farmland, because it's up to the person when they sell as to who ends up buying it, whether it be a farmer or a developer. Did that summarize that well, Sage?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was just trying to think of how we could put language in there to accomplish what I think that we're all intending, with that statement is how to word that specifically. I like, the limiting on lot sizes, the stuff that's already been done along 500, between 38 and 3,900, requiring connection to the city utilities. Also, I think is good, and maybe we could. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways to word this to where we're not telling people they can't develop or can't sell their farmland, and telling people they can't buy farmland to develop. But yeah, it's tricky.
I guess the way I'm seeing it is if grandpa wants to sell a family farm, and he's got 40 acres and he wants to sell it, some developer comes in and says, sure, I'll buy it. Well, it's selling agricultural. And the first thing he's gonna do is make beeline to the commission or the council, whatever the case may be, and say, well, I don't want to put 600 apartments somewhere, that sort of thing. And, I think the only way we can avoid that is like what they did down in Riley. It's like, no, it's all gonna be R5, R10. You want to come down here and build some beautiful single custom homes and stick them on 5 acres, that's great, go for it. But if you want to put 600 apartments down here, that's not gonna happen.
Right. And that's the first question I would ask when, they go to rezone is, what was the zone that when you purchased it? Well, it was zoned this, well, you knew that when you purchased it, right?
Unfortunately, a lot of them,
to value out of what you bought as R1 or 10 or whatever, right? And you want us to value out because you bought it as one thing, hoping we would value out.
no. That's an enforcement thing because.
Correct, because there's been a history of rubber stamping and jumping into R3. And these developers know that. Nobody changed the mindset. They're gonna continue to do that.
And the ones who end up paying for it are the other homeowners around the area.
Live next door, sure.
You live next door. And those days have got to stop.
I agree. 100%.
So I'm inclined to agree with the statement, keeping agricultural land intact by limiting its conversion to residential use. Requiring larger lot sizes when land is developed. And prioritize the policy to preserve working farming to the land is sold.
And I think.
I don't know that you could prioritize that policy because, again, when the farmer sells the land, we sell the land, and whoever bought it is ultimately going to have to address what he's going to do with what they are going to do with the land, or whether they're going to maintain it as a farm, or they're going to go in and try and get it rezoned. And that's, to me, where the emphasis should be.
Well, I like that where it says limiting its conversion to residential use. So that's where we can put that definition of, if you take a 40-acre farm, okay, cool. It can now be subdivided out, built on 5-acre lots. That meets that criteria of limiting its conversion for residential use.
Now you have to understand the limits are gonna be. The county commissioners change every once in a while. Planning and zoning boards change. And they're all gonna have their own opinions on things. Absolutely. Those, what we put here, those are gonna change with the wind that wind comes in those roles. But I think the better wording we have here, the better off it's gonna be in protecting the greater Rigby area.
I raised my hand this time.
What's that?
I said I raised my hand this time. So I was just thinking if we put in a provision, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So if we put in a provision for splitting, say, a 40-acre farm down to 5-acre lots, I don't disagree with that at all, but what prevents that, just like you were saying, Jeff, when things continue to grow towards those 5-acre lots, that doesn't necessarily mean that forever until the end of all time, those can only be 5-acre lots. So how do we preserve the decisions that are made now to not just, like we said before, check a box, yep, 5 acres, and then I'm going to come back to the board next election cycle or something when I have one of my buddies in as a commissioner and say, hey, let me split these up 5-acre lots into 1-acre parcels. And, you know, we've already said our piece and moved on to other issues. And then they just come behind us and do what they want.
To be honest, I don't think we can forever and a day protect it. I don't think we can. I think,
It's gonna grow.
yeah, I think
The
we
city
do the
limits are gonna
best
grow.
we can.
Right, and just like with the high density we were discussing before,
Yeah.
close to the resources, right? As the city grows, that's going to add more capability for that higher density, which would then, if they take single family home, buy those lots out, destroy them, and put in apartment buildings.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's been happening in Rexburg and Idaho Falls, and it's going to happen here, just when.
We do the best we can, and then it's ultimately gonna end up voter's choice. If somebody undoes what we do somewhere down the line, voters are gonna have their say, and that's all that we can do.
Yep.
We can all show up at the meeting and scream and yell and then they do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's never, to me, I'm kind of like driving it. How do you prevent that from happening?
Or you can't please everyone.
I mean, you can't please everyone, but you know, 200 people show up at the meeting and they're all screaming bloody murder and they don't want to do this. And 2 guys show up and say, we do. And they say, okay, we're doing it now. Money talks. And that's what it's all about. How do you take their authority to do that away from them? Absent some kind of legislative action that says, if you want to do this in an area that's designated as this, and you really want to have that profound of a change, sorry, you gotta submit that to the voters. And I don't need people to show up for the meeting and say, no, I vote for this. I'm talking about an honest to goodness proposition, something, ballot initiative, whatever. But really, I don't know how else you could place any kind of restriction on their authority. They were elected.
True, but all of us have attended meetings before where they said, well, they checked all the boxes, so we have to approve it. Maybe we add a box, let's say you need to, if it's.
Well, the boxes did not approve over there. They just said not to follow. I won't go down that road.
I mean, it's such a blatant contradiction of what I perceive as a comprehensive plan. You know, a comprehensive plan says, this is all gonna be R5 area. Okay, that's what our plan says, that's approved. And these guys come along and they say, well, you know, we kind of like to change that. We'd like to build a bunch of condominiums in there and stuff, and well, this is what you gotta do in order to need condominiums in there. You check this box, you checked all the boxes, so you approved. Wait a minute, that is still in defiance of the plan. Right. You know, so you didn't check the first box and that is conforming to the plan. I don't know how to effectuate that. To me, that seems like a legislative thing.
My thought process on it is if we set a density around the city of Rigby, and then like we're doing for the greater Rigby area, we're going out a couple miles, set a density there and do steps as we progress out. It'll probably take 15, 20, 30, 50 years as those steps happen. But if we put those confinements on it, that these steps have to be met where the city is bulging and needs to expand. It's going to absorb the greater Rigby area. And as it does that, then you can change the R5s to R1s. Then you can make those adjustments for the more people that are coming in to increase that density. I don't know how to phrase it appropriately in this, but I think if we have a density limit And the farther away from Rigby, then the greater the acreage gets to be.
That's exactly what I was just thinking of, and I was trying to figure out how to word it. I was trying to think of like a heat map, and the
Yes.
epicenter is Rigby, and then as the area cools, the properties get bigger, the density thins out.
Right.
Thank you.
So that's my thought process, but how do we phrase that appropriately?
Preventing unchecked development comparatively managed through strong zoning protection to establish a continued space. Keeping agricultural land, even the phrase strong zoning protections.
A lot of people are gonna hate that.
Well, what is a strong zoning protection? Because again, we're getting down to the definition of what is a strong zoning protection.
Well, and again, though, that's where that stuff later gets defined with,
Yeah.
you know, specific ordinances and policies. So I guess kind of like where you're trying to work on the broad idea, broad aspects, to focus more on the detailed stuff, that comes later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we could actually put it to a geographical, you know, like a heat map, like I was thinking, but maybe it would be better broken down by percentage of available property, because it's really all subject to availability of the X amount of acres that are proposed to be developed. Then this percentage needs to be of this density, and this percentage needs to be of another, and maybe we could curb a little bit of it that way.
So I don't know if, since we're doing kind of in general right now, do we leave section 3 as it is now? And then break it down into more detail as we go?
I'm okay with that. Cause we're limiting its conversion to residential use. That is generic enough to say that later on, that limitation will be defined.
Question.
Yeah, we
here
can
is
leave that as the what right now and put the how in later.
Are we gonna be part of that defining process, or is that something that's going to the powers that be?
So kind of how this comprehensive plan breaks down is you have your overreaching broad guiding principle. So these principles are to guide what your goals and policies would be. So just real quick, just to kind of scroll down is, let me try to find a good example. So here's section 6, here's housing element. And so then here's more specific section. Here's policies that have just been kind of written out. And so these are going back to that guiding principle. These policies are now going to provide some more specific use. And maybe what might be a better example is looking at our county-wide comprehensive plan, since that one has been approved and put in place. Rather than the muddy the waters with just the ideas stuff. So,
We're gonna take a broad brush to this for now.
yeah, and then that was the point of those guiding principles, is just
Some
overarching idea.
as this committee progresses, we will have an opportunity to get greater definition. Or are we just taking the broad stroke and when we're done, we hand it over to the county commissioners and they say, well, we can drive a truck through this language, we can do anything we want. And that's what I'm trying to understand is how much input are we going to have? Ultimately as to what the specifics are.
Oh, hey, I'm unmuted. Hey, so you're on the right track, and Jen is guiding you the right way. That you're right. This is really broad right here. As we get into the goals and policies, that's where the language will become more specific. Like right now, the current comprehensive plan says that we want you know higher density located in the greater Rigby area. The challenge is nobody knows what high density means, right? And so the goals and policies will help us get more specific as it becomes, right? And so like the zone change that we just did, where the guy wanted the suburban neighborhood, it met the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan because the policy says high density belongs in the area of impact, is in the area of impact, and it has access to services, which was another, or has become available, right? And so it met the policy. So, anyhow, that's just an example of how it works moving forward.
Because we can get down the road and make the greater definition of what actually is higher density.
Yeah, we'll need to put together better definitions as we get. Yeah, done with it.
What's re-agendizing?
Take that out.
Like Sage said, and then does it mesh with the city? One with the city, or again.
Yeah, I mean. I think it's a generic statement. It get us going, for lack of a better term. I think principle 3 is probably fine for now, for as we get down the road. I think it's very important that we emphasize that just saying higher density, we're gonna allow higher density. That's enough, it didn't speak, what is higher density, 100, 200, 500? How many, we need to have low, medium, high density definitions.
Yeah.
What that constitutes. And I think that's get down the road.
Sure. I'm okay leaving it where it's at.
Right, on to number 4.
I don't know about you guys, but I hate the word affordable.
That's such an open-ended,
Yeah,
everybody has their different definition of what is affordable.
I mean, turn on the news and listen to conversations about affordable housing. You know, it's, wow, you know, yeah. You know, and this is affordable, it's only 1.2 million.
Everybody can afford that.
That's cheap for San Francisco.
You know, my credit card.
Yeah,
Just buy it now.
for others, you know, I'm sorry. 200 grand, you could be kidding. I'm okay with diverse housing. We've already beat that horse to death, you know, but
I'd like,
affordable housing.
let's take that word out.
Yeah, just diverse housing while protecting greater rural territory.
Okay.
Florida's further down in the top.
I'm wondering how much of it is.
Really have something.
Probably just sitting there about the things, like smart folks in the office.
Diverse and affordable.
Size. We can pull out focusing as well. Should emphasize multifamily housing instead of focusing. Develop should emphasize multifamily housing near city limits where.
Not within the near city limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. From Spartan.
And then growing suburban. Define suburban neighborhood, so.
I think that's more of the single family homes.
Yeah. No, the suburban neighborhood zone that we have currently, that's where that allows the higher density, so not like 1 acre, but it could go as small as quarter acre if it has the city sewer.
So we're talking R1 zone.
No,
Then suburban neighborhood. So
So
that's,
that's the high density.
yeah,
So let's put that in there instead, so we can use the same saying.
Yeah.
Apples and apples. So growing the high density neighborhoods.
How about higher density neighborhoods, since the last principle we looked at, it was needing the definition of what is high density.
Yeah. And principle 2 says higher density. So let's keep the same.
Can we point out one thing?
Please.
Suburban neighborhood is actually a zoning definition within the zoning code. Just like Ag 10, R1, R5, suburban neighborhood is the zone.
So do we change the higher density and pull that completely and use suburban?
Suburban neighborhood.
Okay, so pull that from principle 2 and there in principle 4 and put suburban neighborhood.
Is every higher density area only a suburban neighborhood?
Defines what high density is under suburban neighborhood.
not necessarily, because commercial 1 would allow for that as well. Or would allow for multifamily. So I think the zone is where the zoning allows what size lots you can create. Whereas what we're more focused on is the types of uses or the designated use. So if we're talking, higher density, that kind of falls under more multifamily use, whereas the zoning.
Lot falls under what?
All right, let me help you out just a little bit. So what, for example, I like where you're going. Suburban neighborhood would be a good designation for a land use designation. And then one of the goals or policies would be encourage additional zoning definitions to separate multifamily from high density single family homes, like quarter acre lots, right? So then you're encouraging the county to create a multi-family zone. Does that make sense? That helps you to create some of that separation that you're looking for.
Right.
Would be high density, single.
So we're going to put suburban back in, or do you want to leave it at higher density? Where the suburban is an actual defined naming convention. Versus higher density. Can't hit either side.
So I think what Milton was trying to explain is that, if it helps to kind of differentiate between, the lower density, your 1 acre lot subdivisions versus your higher density, your suburban multifamily designations, that what could be created within this comprehensive plan is you could have a residential use and you could have suburban neighborhood use. And that's where you could have that differentiation between, where the differentiation between single family dwellings versus multifamily dwelling. I think that's what he was trying to convey. If I summarize that good or not, I don't know. So if you guys want to use that language for suburban neighborhood, that's something that could be made as that's a designated use.
Okay.
And then that way our zoning information, it could line up with the comprehensive plan wording.
Okay. Trying not to get wrapped around the axle on it, I guess.
Okay, are we on number 5?
I think we were still on number 4, unless you guys wanted to move on to number 5.
We're just finishing up that last little bit on 4, I think.
Okay, yeah.
There's strong support to add a mix of housing types. So that statement there, that strong support from you.
I might have been, again, from the survey, so I don't know I don't know if you were here last week, like over Zoom or not. So we did a Mentimeter survey, and so what we did is we put each guiding principle up, and then everyone kind of just inputted a bunch of different ideas, and so then we had staff go in and kind of combine those. And so I think that's where some of this language came in was some of that, so.
As I recall from the conversation, it was. We didn't want too great an emphasis on high densities, but we gotta preserve some of the stuff we have, senior housing, plus 55 housing, some of these other things, and. We don't want to get overrun with apartments with 50 people in each one. I agree there, so.
Okay. Okay. Going to 5 now.
5. Into the first sentence there. Keep pace with growth and are funded fairly, and funded appropriately. What's fair?
I hear it's an office.
Appropriately. Yeah.
Before you,
Yeah.
before plot approval or something. And you have several, because they go to P and Z and then they go over to council for final approval.
Be established prior to approval.
If anybody wants it, give me your email address and I'll send you a document from this meeting and what their process is. They did a big development, 500 homes. And what they would impact fees are due. I mean, this involved parks, apartments, and single family homes. It was pretty interesting going through their whole processes on the website. And it was very interesting reading through impact fees, roads. It was a very detailed process, but it was very public. You don't have to guess. Everybody has to go through the process. And from zoning to all my yards, it was great. So also be ready if anybody wants it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take it.
I've got a little bit of an issue with that second part of that first sentence. Just where it says proper planning and funding should be required to be established prior to approval. I think if we're giving it a should, proper planning and funding should be established prior to approval. I don't think we need required to be in there. If we're giving it a should, it's we're either going to make it a shall and saying it's mandatory, or we're giving it a should to say we strongly encourage this to be a thing.
Yeah, shall be established.
It's a good catch.
As we shall.
So let's just end it there, shall be.
Established. Developer contributions or developer requirements? Contribution seems like something the developer wants to, requirements, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Developer requirements. Contributions can always have a negative contingent.
Yeah,
like it's optional.
or there's dollar signs behind it to certain individuals, there's a contribution.
How much authority do we have to make that statement about requiring the developer, like the grants and things like that? They say, okay, yeah, we should do that, but it is what it is, and then they just move on. Do we have any leverage with any of that?
Well, I think if we don't have the approval, they'll take it out.
Yeah, that or,
Like,
when we have to have the hydraulic tests done, when they develop these 1 acre homes, and they've each got to throw down a well. They've got to go through the process, and the developers have to do that well test and the hydraulic, I don't know what it's called.
It's an MP study.
Thank you.
Yeah, or nutrient tests.
Now, let me help you out just a little bit. So state statute, refers conditional use permit applications and zone change applications to the comprehensive plan. Development to refer to the comprehensive plan and see what it says about zone changes to see if that language will fit. But it definitely fits for conditional use permits. And of course, planned unit developments are required to.
Cut in and out on us, Milton.
I think if you've got some language that will fit, then let's have you bring that in, and let's look at it.
Okay.
I like if a lot of these questions have already been answered somewhere else. I really, in big picture, like the thought of following a little bit of what the city's already got in place, so that we're not over time, for lack of better words, handing them a shit sandwich when it comes time for them to take over what we've created.
Yep, I agree with that.
I think the rest of 5 is okay.
Marble 6.
Not sure the words used, but while placing larger industrial commercial developments outside residential areas, you mean like across the street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That needs a rework too.
Yeah, just don't put them in their lobbies or nowhere in the living room.
Into the appropriately zoned areas.
Yeah. And then what higher wage employers are we bringing in from BYU Idaho?
Should say employees. Better.
Is that employees, not employers?
Should be employees.
I think when we talked about that at the last meeting, wasn't it with the intent of finding ways to make the area more attractive to higher paying employers?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Make the area more attractive.
But I don't know how you do that any better than telling a farmer that he can't sell his farm and a developer that he can't develop it. I mean, we just got to be kind of cognizant that we don't want to do anything that's going to necessarily deter those types of people.
Well, that's the benefit of having these zoned areas for business, right? If you have the proper zoning area where they can have office space and things like that, then you, or what I've seen done, you have office space available for lease or where they can build office space. And then you can attract these technology companies to an area, and you have a highly skilled workforce that come, and then you have educated people that want to work in those areas. And, you know, they pay a little better than the average wage. You want to move to the area. If they're gonna move to the area anyway, then want people who are earning better wages. Then they want to buy the one house on 5 acres, right? Because that's what they can afford.
I think also at the 1,000-foot view of that statement, it's not going to be very attractive to somebody that has a storefront if the only available zoned area for them is on the corner of 3,900 and 200 versus having that, you know, like along the Highway 20 corridor where the traffic is. So maybe I'm thinking too much into it, and it's kind of that problem's already kind of solving itself because, you know, 30,000 cars a day travel that road. If we're giving them areas where their business is going to be seen, that's where they're going to want to be.
Right. Benefit of having these areas specifically zoned for certain things. A light industrial zoned area, an office zoned area is that you can attract certain kinds of businesses to those areas. And those businesses will come to that area based upon what they're zoned for. And obviously this doesn't happen overnight. This is a long-term idea. But then you get the employees that'll come and stay. I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to, you know, their kids go to college and then what do? They move away because what they graduate in, they can't find jobs in here.
So we want to make this a little bit broader of a statement, like we're kind of limiting it to technology companies, so maybe we should make opportunities to attract companies and higher wage employers that could provide local career opportunities and help retain educated workers who currently leave the area for employment. And that kind of,
Yes.
if you take out BYU, that kind of encompasses ISU, EEI.
yeah, I was thinking that they would go like from BI.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think it should be, yeah, exactly.
More broader.
More broader.
So I take out, there are also to just put make opportunities to attract companies.
Create. Yeah.
employers, what was I was trying to keep up with her, I thought.
Make opportunities to attract.
Delete between BYUI and employers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Employers that
Companies hire wage.
provide local career opportunities.
Could can go away. Yep, perfect.
Higher wage employees. But career
it should be higher wage employers, so they offer a higher wage, right?
Right.
So make opportunities to attract companies and
I'd like to speak for myself and ask that we delete the word educated. There's got to be room for some of us little guys.
So another thing to think about, and not to throw a wrench in, but this is changing so quickly that it started with the Airbnbs. The Airbnbs made people think differently about how they spend the night at places, and so motels no longer have to be on the main road. I mean, yesterday I drove 12 miles out of Sandpoint and had lunch at a really nice little place in the middle of the woods. This morning I drove 7 miles out of Sandpoint and had breakfast at a different little place in the middle of the woods. I mean, it's just changed that much that businesses are popping up in people's houses. The honeybee place is a good example. Up here, it's people are making cheese and selling it. You see it on the stands out there, the egg farm stands and the bakery stands, and it's just becoming more and more where we can't really think about business along a strip anymore, because they're making successful businesses wherever they are. I mean, I toured a chocolate factory yesterday that the guy ships chocolates around the United States, and it's just a little. You would never guess that was a chocolate factory, and so it just is. It's just changing. And then of course all these people working from home or not, Sage, that are doing their businesses, running their stuff from home, and the world is thinking differently about how we work. And so, as we talk about commercial development, we need to think about that, because some of the complaints we get are folks that, hey, my neighbor's running the house. So think about.
Well, that does kind of play into your zoning as well. I mean, there's a reason why there's ghost towns. Once the railroads came through, that's where the towns went, where the railroads were. Once the freeways came through, all the railroad towns disappeared. And today you look at it, commercial development right along the border along 20, right? Because that's what you always did. You wanted people to see your sign. But the reality is, you're driving down Highway 20. How many of you actually spotted a dentist office sign and said, that's where I'm going to go? More often than not, anymore, we're going to do it. The directions. Yeah, the directions, and it's like I don't care if it's around the corner. It doesn't need to be right here. Plumbing supplies, something like that. I don't know many people that suddenly find themselves with a leaky faucet and say, "I'm going to cruise down Highway 20 and see if I can find a plumber." They Google it. So
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. That you got Angie's List, you got all of the Yelp, anything you can get on. Why go drive around to find a place when you can open up your phone and go, "Yep, that's where I'm on my way to."
yeah, as a consequence of that, people have that older mentality that's like, well, I'm going to have this business. I want it right there on the freeway, so everybody sees it. It's like they're not. They've already decided where they're going. They're going to go Home Depot or something. They've already made it for mine where they're going to go. And the fact that you're not right there on the freeway, you're back quarter of a mile or half a mile somewhere else. Okay, don't go do that. Don't drive to it. And I make that point because that affects land use. Like I complained about this last couple of days, but again, going at Rigby Lake Drive, your opportunities to really expand and address the traffic issues are disappearing very quickly with all the development that's going on right along the freeway. And you almost want to ask these people, why did you build here? And they're probably going to say this building. I'm going to tell you something. When I needed a new water filter, I Googled it. Hey, right down the street. It really didn't matter to me whether you're on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, or a quarter mile back. where you were for me to look at the water, the reality is, as a resident there, I'm sure we have much wider road going to the lane because of the traffic. So, you know, it kind of plays into that, how we're gonna develop this stuff. You know, provide for these opportunities. I mean, Milton's right, we talk about driving around towns and finding these little mom and pop places, and I've often looked at the little rural small houses that run adjacent to buildings. And think, you know, at some point in the future, all these older folks are gonna disappear to go away. These little houses would be perfect opportunities for very small, you know, candy shops and whatever, shops, things like that. I mean, you could really use them. But you have to encourage them. Seven now.
Protecting greater Rigby's water resources, open spaces, natural landscape, and careful planning, responsible development. Those includes preserving irrigation canals and wildlife areas, open spaces. So need developers to include green spaces, protecting existing water systems, and emphasizing the use of community water systems, tree planting, and long-term water studies to ensure water quality is also. This elsewhere. When it comes to water, we've talked about a little bit on the water studies, increasing the amount of water we can show. Or your water.
So a month ago, at the last meeting that I was at, I asked Milton for the potential to take all these water studies that have been done for each of these little subdivisions and combine them for what does that water look like for the greater Rigby area? What's that going to do to the aquifer? What is the long-term risk associated with that? And his answer in that meeting was dollar signs. It's an expensive study. He says AI can do the analysis on that. But that right here, in this guiding principle, to me, means everything. Because I would be willing to bet this year specifically, because of the drought, we're gonna have personal wells go dry. And when we start having those personal wells go dry, they're gonna go in there and they're gonna incur the cost to punch a new well. When they punch a new well, who's doing the study now, where the aquifer is at, and how long until everybody else has to punch a new well? What is that gonna look like? And how long until the aquifer is no longer there? Is that 150 years from now? Is that 500 years from now? Or is that 5 years from now? I don't have an answer for that.
Especially when you consider the growth of population.
Oh, what's the concern residents have every time they do subdivision? It's water, that's water. And in a drought year, that becomes an even bigger concern.
Correct.
Whether or not we're gonna have enough water, we probably will, but I can't think of a better way to pacify residents' concerns than if we have the water requirement that, you know, says, 50-year, 100-year, whatever, that has to be passed. And then we can point that, you can point that to the residents and say they had to do this and then pass. And that can help pacify residents and say for this development, they had to do this and it passed.
Right.
You
So my counter argument with that though is they're already doing that for the current subdivisions.
it's not 100-year water.
No, but they're doing their water studies. What we don't have
It's not aggregate.
is is the collective
Right,
water
you're
study.
100% right,
That's what I want. I want the collective water study
and I think it should be done.
of where we at right now, what's going to happen. And as we forecast these changes, because we have that document that had forecast the changes 2005 to now, and then what's gonna look like in another 25 years or whatever. Using that as the guide for the number of people coming in, what is gonna happen to the water?
I agree, I mean, you guys know it's big.
Sure.
So Jenna, will you,
Yes.
so Jenna, will you write down that question and then maybe tomorrow get a hold of Rocky Mountain Environmental and see what it would cost? See what their recommendation would be to come up with that study. See if they have an idea of what it would look like. So we don't drop the ball on this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still working on the AI thing. It's coming. It's just, it's gonna take, what are they telling us? We're in the end of July before we're live on AI?
The latest forecast is around the end of July that we're supposed to be launching live with Madison.
Okay. So, but in the meantime, let's see what Rocky Mountain Environmental has to say about this question and what it looks like. I like it.
Unless you ask a question, not gonna get answered. So. I don't see anything change anything under 7 though.
Just at the very end. To ensure water quality is also important,
I'd say that long-term water studies to ensure water availability versus quality.
And take the rest of it out.
Yeah.
That it very end was a little clunky.
Water availability.
Yeah. Who forgot the pizza tray?
That needs to be on the agenda.
So I guess we did still have a few other items. I don't know if you guys want to. So after going through those guiding principles, next what we'd be going through is just going through, the housing element section. So that's kind of where we're going more. So that initial guiding principle where it talked about, probably the diverse and affordable housing / what about, I can't remember the other one. But so then this section, the housing element is, we kind of go a little bit more into detail then with that, where you have some specific housing policies or housing goals that you'd like to see. And so this one isn't as well flushed out yet, just because we're mostly focusing on those guiding principles. Our staff had kind of already started with existing housing conditions. So just kind of pulling some data that's, already been done, already available, and then providing some statistical analysis with that. So then under the policy section, that's kind of where you could then start to talk about, what types of housing would you like to see and where would you like to see that placed? Your multifamily housing, you want that to be, or you want that to be next to your lower density, your single family dwelling housing, or there's somewhere in between you'd like to see that. So that's kind of where you guys were going a bit more in that specifics earlier. That's kind of where these policies would then go. So if you guys have any any policies now, or maybe if you just want to take some time to think on some more of those specific policies. We could add those as you guys are able to come up with them. And then, let's see. Then the number section. Section.
So that kind of points to me as, again, what do we want Rigby to be? You know, I mean, the diversity of housing type shall be permitted to be adjacent to the city, Rigby's various city impact, including multi-family housing, town of law, where I know all that, because, you know, that's what's going on. Where do you want the emphasis to be? If you want to preserve the heritage of this community, then almost by definition, your emphasis is going to be on single family homes. Okay, if you want to cross over the dark side, so to speak, and say, you know, we want this to be a booming college town with 10 million people living in it, then okay, go do that. But you've lost what Rigby is, you know what it's been. So to me, there's a delicate balance there between accommodating a growing community that does have needs beyond single family dwellings and overemphasizing in the other direction just to, we need to find houses. So people need to find houses for themselves. Right. You know, and you know, again, we used to be in my wife and I used to be in California. We picked Rigby for a reason, as opposed to Hammond or Idaho Falls or Pocatello. And that's because of the kind of community it was. And I don't have a problem with the car driving 15 to 20 miles down the road, because I can do it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and go to all big shopping centers if we need to. I'm willing to make that sacrifice very easily to preserve the open space that we have here. So I guess I'm saying in terms of housing policies, really, I think the emphasis in the words what we come up with is something that says, in my opinion, we want to promote more housing, you know, so we can accommodate growth, support the people in this community, but at the same time, preserve the integrity of what we've had. What else community?
And I think that would be used was by the integrity of comes down with that. Because while we can't guarantee what's going to happen down the road with change of salary, other people coming into office of council and commissioners and all that. By setting the right things in place, hopefully they'll look at it and decide to continue on with the right. It's, we don't want to see the character of Rigby change. Because we're going to grow, the city's going to grow, the Rigby area is going to grow. That's just a fact of life. The character within, we'd like to see stay the same.
Exactly. On that note, I heard that there was approval of some development. I want to say it's the private bell about a trailer park going in there. Did you guys hear about that?
I haven't heard anything about it, but you guys should
There's
know.
been no approval. There was a proposed, but it was denied. Well, it was approved, but it looked better. That's.
I'm glad to hear that, because when I initially looked, and I wasn't sure what, were they talking about an RV park or were they talking about a trailer park?
It was a manufacturer.
Manufactured home park. Okay,
So I guess, maybe something just to kind of, I'm more of a visual person than a written form person. And so what kind of helped me understand the comprehensive plan just a little bit more when looking at the map. So this is the comprehensive plan map. And so all that you can see that's tan colored, that's back in 2020, that's what the county had designated for the potential, you know, if a zone change was needed to go to residential type uses. And so when we're talking about these housing policies, that's where we could think of, what would we want the map to look like? Where would we want to designate, you know, your single family home designation versus your multifamily or higher density family? So I'll I'll turn this layer down so you can still kind of see the city limits. So, kind of thinking on where, if the intent is, to try to have more of the higher density closer to city limits where you have the city sewer services, where would you like to see that designation be with this one versus where would you like to see that lower density designation be? So, like here's Saddle Hill, those are 1 acre lots. And then right across the street in the city limits, that's where you have, I believe, a mixture of single family dwellings, and then there's also some multifamily. So the idea, when you're trying to designate these lower versus higher density, or, single family versus multifamily use, that's then where you could create those policies to reflect those, where that designation can then fall. If that maybe kind of helps just to give a little, putting an image to it, kind of what you guys are thinking.
Maybe I should like to do with what we've already done.
The lots that are crossed out, the line, the lateral lines, what does that mean?
Those were just recent, like somebody had, recently split property. Or they're just moving boundary lines around, and so that's the assessor's layer that's their way of kind of keeping track when property boundaries have changed around.
Okay. So could that be a tale that they're looking at subdividing those out, and building those into new subdivisions? Could that?
It depends. I don't believe, trying to see.
Like if you look on 41, just north of 300 on the east side of 41 by the church, it looks like there's some X's just behind the church. It looks like. So there.
Yeah, so it's more just kind of that's showing like that might be that one parcel or a few parcels, and it's just showing that there's some property change going on. It doesn't go into detail as to what exactly. It's just indicating for the assessors, it's just their way of trying to keep track of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So on this, where we got this kind of late, I feel we should go back and research, this Idaho Code here, 676508B. Kind of educate ourselves on that, and maybe we can draft some stuff that we think would be appropriate, or if those 3 policies that are already in there are sufficient. Try to give us some time to kind of look that over. And do you know if you got any feedback from any of the surveys from the public on that or anything? Yeah, because didn't you say like the guiding principles that came from the public, that what they wanted on?
No, that was from you guys last time, yeah.
So I think, I don't know, I think we probably need to educate ourselves and kind of read that and kind of look at the other plan of their principles, kind of what they established on the Jefferson County side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we'd probably be in a better area to kind of discuss policies, in my opinion.
I would say go through, 67, 65, 08,
all the way through 65, 67, 65. You can Google Idaho's, Title 65, 67-65, and it's pretty robust. If you haven't been through that, I have to go through that, study that, it's pretty interesting.
And if you want to, we could email you this stuff, or if you want printed copies, we could print it to you as well, if you want. Sure.
No. I'm not sure if it's, there wasn't something to do. That's lucky. That's the other issue.
I volunteer to join because I was nominating him.
There you go. Thanks for jumping on.
Says there, if you don't show me, you need to get.
Stay home.
Back then after doing some reading, yes.
Yeah, I think I'd like to read that and some of the. Yeah, that's good. Jefferson County lines.
Then I guess if you guys want to adjourn, then you just have someone make the motion to adjourn, have someone second. And then have a vote on that.
I would say.
Anyone but the chairman will have to make the
I should
motion.
have got about
Do we have a date that we're reconvening?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks,
Thanks. So
the second and the fourth Tuesdays. The next one, today being the 8th, the next one should be the 22nd.
It's the year.
You make a motion that we adjourn until the next
Excuse me,
meeting.
second, fourth Monday, I apologize.
Okay, so that's 22nd still?
Yes, it's still the 22nd.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn for this evening and we convene on June 22nd at 6 p.m.
Second.
Third and fourth.
Okay, a motion, do we have a second, all in favor? Yep. Aye. Motion carries, we are adjourned.
Have a good night, everybody.
I make a motion, but I can say that.
Well, let us know if you're gonna